We are live right now on Fast Break Bets. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here. Gino and Erik from ETOF 21 Sports. We're getting ready for an NBA Friday. 3 more games on tonight. And Erik, I wasn't going to wear a Lakers shirt today because, the Lakers don't even play today. But then I heard some of LeBron's comments when they asked him about what Dylan Brooks said, and it got me pumped up already for tomorrow. So I'm already looking ahead, Erik, at some of the LeBron props, because win or lose tomorrow, I think it'll be a big LeBron game. He poked a bear. He said, I don't care unless you get 40 on me. So he poked the bear. Right now, looking at LeBron, the points, if you just wanted to play the points total, that's 28.5. I think I would go more for a combo. LeBron points and assists, 34.5 at minus 105. That's a fine number. And even the points, rebounds, assists over 43.5. I think I'd rather go points, assists, 34.5. That feels like one. So I'm already excited thinking about the 4 games tomorrow and the Lakers, because I love that trash talk back and forth. Erik, talk for a second, set us up for today while I send out the chat, the YouTube chat, because that's what we want to hear from today. We want to hear from some of you in the YouTube chat. Let us know who you're playing today. Let us know if you're hanging out, any of your thoughts, comments. Give us a little overview of what we've got coming today, Erik.
We're going to be breaking down today's games, the 3 games between the Nuggets, Timberwolves, Hawks, Celtics, and Cavs, Knicks. But before we get into that, I want to play a little game called Guess the Player. Okay. Let's play Guess the Player. Player 1. 658 NBA games played, 11 flagrant fouls, 1.3 per 82 games. Player 2. 520 NBA games played, and this is only regular season, 9 flagrant fouls, 1.4 per 82 games. Player 3, 328 NBA games played, 14 flagrant fouls, 3.5 per 82 games. Who do you think those players are?
One's Draymond, one's Brooks.
Draymond, 1.3, 685 games, 11 flagrant fouls. Okay. 1.3. Not as kind of bad as everyone thinks. Okay.
No.
Marcus Smart, someone who also has a bad rep.
Sure.
520 games played, 9 flagrant fouls, 1.4. Okay. The last one, Joel Embiid, 328 games played, 14 flagrant fouls, 3.5 per 82 games. If the precedent has been set, you're going to expel players for a game based on past results. The NBA should suspend Joel, because that was as intentional as it gets last night with him and Claxton.
That was brutal. No, that was really bad. And there were a couple of video of clips I saw floating around of just, I know why it frustrates you. Like I like him a little bit more, but what ends up happening is they've let him get away with so much with the free throws and like the way he gets officiated. Like compare him down low to what happens to any other game when the ball's in the paint. It's night and day. He was out in the perimeter and like Miles Bridges like pushed him. And did you see the one where he like fell over? Like he just got completely shot. I mean, it was brutal.
I've said it before. He's a punk. He flops, and he's never going to win a championship unless he gets the Walton championship where he just sits on the bench. He's never going to win a championship. Even look at in the postseason, he's only played 40 games, 4 flagrant fouls, 8.3 per 82 games. He's dirty too. Like he's just, I don't know. He's just not it for me. I'm pretty standish on this point. And the fact that you have Doc Rivers saying, hey, you know what? I don't like the fact they're talking about they should suspend him, blah, 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 blah. You're up 3-0. If you're going to be this a mental midget up 3-0, what's going to happen when you play a team like Boston next round? I mean, they're just mentally just not capable of being able to win it.
Yeah, and you can see what's difficult is, I think the difference between you and me is you're right. Like, I wouldn't want to go to bat necessarily with some of these guys, but in sports, you only have to play who's in front of you, right? So could they beat a full strength Boston? No, but that's not always how it works, right? One of these Boston guys gets hurt, then all of a sudden your road gets a little easier. We already know Giannis is a little bit banged up. Now you look around and it was like, man, all of a sudden one or two things break their way and they could be right there in the finals. That's why it's so crazy. You got to just keep winning games and put yourself in, get yourself in that position. I've been a little disappointed with the Nets. Not in that I was expecting the Nets to win that series in any way, shape, or form. Some overall execution in spots has really hurt them. Bobby Thomas checks in. Let me guess. What's Erik for his bet tonight? Capella under points and rebounds. Erik, let's dive right into it, right? Did you have anything else you want to say before we get into previewing tonight?
No, I will say this. Curry proved how good he was last night. They shot 40% and still won that game. 40% and still won that game. Curry is remarkable. My boy Bobby is right. I did Capella under 20.5 points. Gone under the last two playoff games, only gone over this total one game against the Celtics. He's just too slow. We saw his minutes decrease by 5. I think his minutes are going to start decreasing. There's two things that Quinn Snyder can do in this game. One, go smaller, have Collins a little bit more at the 5, Okawa a little bit more at the 5. I think where he's going to start to see that. We start to see that trend go a little bit more. And number 2, everything is through DeJounte Murray. They made their run in the second half with Trae Young on the bench and DeJounte Murray being the man, running everything through him. He can't do that. You know what I mean? He's not going to bench Trae Young and then have Murray run everything. Obviously, that the latter is not going to happen. I'll bank on the first one happening, so I'll play the Capella under. It's kind of tricky going back and forth between which rebounding props do you want to attack. Collins actually had more potential rebounds last game, second most, I believe, for the series for potential rebounds. Maybe if you really want to do juicy, maybe a John Collins double-double at 8-1 or Okawa double-double at 10-1. One of those would be a nice little exotic wager I'd look to place.
I subscribe to Cleaning the Glass, which is a good NBA analytics website, and they'll send you little summaries after each of the games and just talk about some of the players who overperform, some of the players who underperform, sort of the thing that you and I kind of look for, right? Like sort of shot quality stuff, who can maybe regress, who can get a little bit better. And the one they really pointed out was John Collins, because in his 30 minutes only had 5 points and only had he's only had 7 3-point attempts, just 4 2-point attempts overall, 6 rebounds and assists. So he was one of the more disappointing, and Saddiq Bey was the other one that they mentioned. Look, I think we're both going to the Hawks here early on in this game. I'm going in the Hawks in the first half. You're going to the Hawks in the first quarter. Down 0-2, coming home, everything on the line. I think Boston, this is the point of the series when a team like Boston may slightly take their foot off the gas, because they've had 2 games where they probably feel really confident about their matchup here. And unfortunately, like when we look at each of these series, they really feel like in a lot of them, adjustment and then readjustment the other way, right? And then someone makes an adjustment and then another good coach makes an adjustment. I just don't know if the Hawks can do enough overall to really adjust in this game, but I am going to play them in the first half. You're going to play them in the first quarter.
Yeah, just ever since Snyder has taken over, they've been a better first quarter team. They've been getting out to these big starts, these leads. We saw that last game. It wasn't for a Brogdon late second 3, they would have hit that. So I expect them to come out big in the first quarter, and then after Boston kind of settles down, gets a little tight, as soon as they get punched in the face, I think they're going to quiver up. And then it wouldn't surprise me next year if this Hawks team is a completely new team. No Capella, no Young. It's really, I don't know. It's really kind of interesting to see what will be next for the Atlanta Hawks.
So I can understand if you don't like Embiid, but here's my issue with like this kind of a thing. For Embiid being someone who wasn't even growing up in this country, for him to get to the NBA, he's definitely not soft. And for him to have dealt with a lot of the injury issues that he's dealt with, he's definitely not soft. You can maybe not like the way he plays, right? I could absolutely agree with that. I hate the way Harden plays a lot of the times. I love Damian Lillard. I don't like when the foul baiting sometimes. Like, I don't like when Chris Paul would do the stop move and all that stuff. So there's certain players I necessarily don't like the way they play, but I would never say someone, especially like Embiid, like when you come from a different country and have to come over here and deal with all the work that it takes to put yourself in line. Eric, you know about how many players are you coaching at the high school level, right? Like how much work they would have to do to get to the level of getting drafted, getting looked at, right, in college. So soft, I mean, because Anthony Davis gets that a lot of the time too. I wouldn't say soft, but we could totally agree. Like for a big man, I thought embarrassing was the word I saw people say how he plays, because get down low, use your body. And why are the officials rewarding him for that? Like I'm equally as mad at the officials for bailing a guy like that out. Like, if he did that for 2 games in a row and doesn't get calls, is he going to do that anymore, Eric?
No, he's not going to do that. Like, if they just stop and they just aren't calling it, it's not going to get called. But when the officials make the precedent of calling that, it's going to get called.
So let's make some money, 69. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate hearing from you. But he's right. The Hawks, they blow a 3-1 lead against the Hawks. That, to me, was one of the more eye-opening, disappointing like moments for this group. But I think of the two of them, wasn't that more the Ben Simmons time, right? When he froze, like when he wouldn't even take shots a lot of the time. So I think that group of guys, they're at least a better team now because Ben Simmons doesn't even get off the bench. He doesn't even play right now. It actually got Harden out of it. But this is what I could say. Not a leader, right? Not a leader. Can he lead a team? If he's your best player, you're going to need an alpha perimeter guy that maybe isn't your best player, but is the leader in the locker room, right? A guy who's a little more mature than him. Like who would be a good pairing of a guard for Embiid that you would think could help Embiid and mature with him, or someone that would help him out?
I'll be honest, I don't even know. I mean, like,
we talked about Jimmy Butler. Maybe.
But then, like, you have to remember is, like, they did that before, and Butler and him were having some sort of issue. They sent Butler to Los Angeles to rehab his injury when they were there. So I don't even know, because Butler is such a, hey, do this, do this, do this. Butler makes you want to work. Butler makes you want to grind.
That's what he needs, though. Like, he needs
but I don't know if, like, he would do it. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
I don't know.
Here's the thing. I don't think he has a problem with work. From everything I've read some articles about him, and even just watching his game, right? He improves his game. Like, he obviously shoots. He's become a better shooter, a better ball handler. He's become a better passer out of the double team. So every year, I've seen him improve on some of his weaknesses. I don't have an issue with his work ethic or his skills as a player. I think it might be like we're saying, and like, let's make money is saying, some of these things are like those intangibles that I still feel like they're correctable. And it's like the same conversation that we were having in the playoffs last year. It's, can you have either the right coach or the right guys? I feel like if you put him with LeBron, he'd be fine. He'd be way better. Like, he would, it needs to be a guy who has a little bit of gravity in the league that Embiid would respect and that he would listen to. If he thought he was like bigger than that person, then he would probably do what he wants. But I think if you could get and this is the key too, right? That's what I hate the Lakers are saying, Doc, right? If you had maybe a better coach there, someone that was a little tougher, it just, the combination of Embiid being your guy, Harden being one of your other guys, and Doc, I just don't trust the three of them, Eric. So maybe I'm a little bit more forgiving on Embiid, but I think for Doc, I kind of know what Doc is. For Harden, we definitely know what Harden is. I still feel like Embiid is like one of your friends that might have hung out with the wrong crowd a little bit, and you're like, hey, let's just get him out of that wrong crowd, get him back on the right track. And I think he has some upside, because I don't think he's a bad dude, and I think he's super motivated. I like the fact that he plays more games. A few years ago, Embiid was Zion, right? We didn't even know if we were ever going to see Embiid. First 3 years of his career, he was more of a thought. Like, is this guy ever going to even step on the court? So
and
a little bit of
limping visibly at the end of the game last night. Excuse me.
Let's see
God
if he
only
can
knows, like, health-wise, what's going to happen with him.
Grind his teeth and get through, because like we've seen, we can rip Embiid because he hasn't made it through one of these playoff runs deep. We can rip Anthony Davis because there have been a couple times where he hasn't been there, but these playoffs are tough for everyone. If you told me who is the most durable player in the league that you can guarantee would make it through the playoffs, almost guarantee, I would have said Giannis. And then Giannis is out right away. And we have Ja Morant, another guy who you probably wouldn't have thought would miss games or get hurt. Tyler Hero, another young guy, not necessarily injury-prone guys that we're talking about, right? Just some sort of weird luck.
I think that was like fluke. The Hero thing,
right?
Was the fluke one of all of them diving for
so
a loop ball.
I know. It was
and like, dude, represent his sideline gear, like the vest, the yellow Carhartt hoodie, the Carhartt hat. Like, I respect that gear.
Yeah.
You're rocking.
Yeah. Okay, so Erik's got the first quarter at +1.5. I've got the first half at +3.5. Erik also has the Capella under 20.5 points and rebounds. Erik, I'm going to go Bogdanović. I think he's quietly been playing pretty well, and I think he's actually a pretty good matchup. He seems like he's bigger than Trae. He's not really scared offensively. He'll take shots, right? He'll just keep firing it up. And even if they stretch out and play him defensively and they get up on him, he can back his range up a little bit. I think that's one of the weird things about Trae that people, even me sometimes forget. Like, Trae's not a good shooter. He's not a good three-point shooter. You just sort of assume he's a good three-point shooter. You think he's kind of like Steph Curry. He's not at all. Like, he's a 33, 34% three-point shooter versus a guy like Bogdanović. Bogdanović has shot 40% from three this year. And in both of games 1 and 2, he had 7 3-point attempts. In game 2, I like the fact that he went up from 27 minutes to 33 minutes. So they gave him more time out there. And his over-under for points and assists is 15.5. He's had 4 assists in both games. So handling the ball, it wasn't like it was fluky. One of the games, he had 5 assists to 0, consistently getting you 4 assists, 15.5 for the points and assists. I hope we get more minutes. He goes home. Guys like Bogdanović, Collins, Sadiq Bey, your old friend from Detroit, he had a miserable game, and he had been playing pretty well for them, especially like in the play-in. Those guys have to play better at home, and I think they will. At home, the role players like that usually are a lot more confident.
Oh, yeah. Role players definitely play a lot better at home compared to on the road, and that was the big difference last night in the Kings game. Those role players for the Kings, they did not play that good. So
Looney was awesome, right? We saw guys like Moody come off the bench and give them good minutes and hit big shots. And you could just feel that lift there. And this Hawks arena is going to be bouncing today. This is really their last chance in this series today to come out with a win, feel like they still have a chance to go back and forth. So that's game 1 of our 3 games tonight. We went through a lot of our plays for that one. I want to answer one more of these before we move on to the next game. Kidding aside, Gino, if the Lakers go down tomorrow, how worried will you be? Tomorrow, I still wouldn't be too worried. It'd be the next game. If it's 2-2, I'm not too worried. Even if they lose this next game on Saturday and then they win the following game and it's 2-2 going back to Memphis, I'm not worried about the Lakers being able to win on Memphis' court. We've already seen them do it in game 1 with both of these teams as full strength as they're going to be in this series. If somebody gets hurt and the Lakers lose, well, that's a different story. But if they just lose tomorrow, and again, it's always about how you lose too, right? But if they play fine and Memphis just plays a little bit better, like Memphis might have a good shooting game coming up. Desmond Bane's probably got a big game coming for him based on some of his shot regression. So I think the Lakers will play better tomorrow. I like the fact that Dylan Brooks is chirping, poking bears. But if they don't, I wouldn't be worried. 3-1, I'm crapping my pants. So we can definitely agree on that one. I have to go get some of my son's pull-ups there so I can walk around with those bad boys all day long. We already got through this one. Doc is the coach. And one more before we move off the Hawks game, Erik. Where could the Hawks trade Young?
I don't know. Because you just kind of look at the landscape of the league. Like, who would want a player like Trae Young? You know what I mean? Like, he'll help sell tickets. Who's kind of in that situation to help sell tickets?
I'll give you a few.
The Thunder.
And you tell me. No. They're way ahead of that, right? Like, they're in a great spot right now. They don't need Trae Young at all. I'll give you the two that I've actually maybe either heard somewhere or wouldn't shock me. Portland, if Damian Lillard goes to Portland and says, I want out, and they look around the league and Atlanta has Trae Young and they say, hey, we'll give you Trae. You'll get a younger Damian Lillard type player where he can sell tickets for you, just like you're saying, and it'll give you at least something to give to sell to your fan base that you didn't get anything for Dame back, because at least people know the name Trae Young and he can light it up there. One more. What if a team like the Spurs don't get Wembanyama? Could you see them taking a shot on him, starting over?
I don't think Pop would put up with anything.
Because it might be someone like that who thinks they can fix him. Is all I'm thinking. Like, I'm looking at it from the coach standpoint, because you as a coach, do you get that way stubbornly sometimes? I used to. When I coached, there would be the kids that were like the problem kid that nobody wanted to coach. But if they were good, I would always think, oh, I can get more out of them than the other coaches did. Do you have that itch at all as a coach?
Sometimes. But sometimes, like, I can go in and I can meet, like, because I always meet with the player first and kind of talk with them one-on-one. And then I kind of, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And like, if I talk to him and I know it's not going to click, then I won't even bother.
So if, let's say the situation was there was a player like a Trae Young that you didn't know personally, but you watched him play. You didn't like the way he played all that much, but then you sat down and talked with him and you were like, wow, this kid's a lot different than I thought. Would that be one that you'd want to take a shot on? Like, if Trae were to sit down and talk,
like if I had a one-on-one with him and I started talking to him and I started talking to some of his coaches and everything, but when I see during the middle of the game him,
the body language stuff.
He got into it with McMillan's kid on the sidelines, who's an assistant coach. That's just a bad look. 2 coaches has left. He seems really uncoachable. I mean, off the top of my head, the team maybe that I could see, just because this is kind of what they do and they kind of need to do a soft little reset, the Miami Heat. I mean, I could see them maybe thinking, hey, you know what? We need someone here. Maybe Butler thinks he can put him in check. I don't know. The Raptors one that Bobby's bringing up.
Give up. I mean, so if you have Lowry coming off the books, right?
Yeah.
Or you able to get rid of Lowry some way, that would free up some money for you. I could see them doing that.
Like, could he handle being him, Hero, Butler, Bam? He'd probably be 3rd or 4th in that pecking order. Like, mentally, is he mature enough to handle that situation? Understand the ball's not always going to be in his hands. Do that stuff, because we've seen it. Murray and him are allegedly friends, and he's having a hard time doing it right now with his
buddy
friend
that he wanted to come in here.
Is he going to be able to do it in a place with Miami? And Miami doesn't take any crap. Miami's like you have a fitness.
It's run like a college. The way that everything is their system. right? You have to have this amount of body fat, right, a lot of the time before you're even at camp, and they're really on you. I agree. I think for Trey, and we've been talking about like Trey, we've been talking about Embiid recently in these similar types of situations. I think the difference between the two of them is honestly just like and both of them may not have it mentally, but physically, at least with Embiid, physically, he's not going to hurt you. In fact, physically, he's a major asset. The problem with Trey is like he can even, like we said, sit down and say, everything I've been doing for the last couple of years hasn't worked. Ever since we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, we haven't been able to get back there. I need to sort of reboot. But physically, what do you do when he's on the court and they just keep attacking him defensively and he's not big enough? He can move his feet, hold his hands up, play his best defense as possible for a guy his size. But if they just shoot right over him and they body him down on the post, it's not even like Luka is a bad defender, right? Like LaMelo Ball, not a great defender. But the difference with those guys, they're 6'6", 6'7", right? They can stand up at least and they hold your ground. You can't just shoot over them and you can't just body them down. Like Luka is thick, right? Like you try to put him in the post, you can't really do that. So that's the problem with Trey. Like wherever he goes, I think you really have to have it set up well for him. And what team, besides some of the personnel he has now, would be a little bit better set up? Because he has a defensive mate in the backcourt. Like Murray is probably one of the better two-way guards, honestly, right? For what they want for Trey Young, is there even a guy out there that you could think would be a better fit for him that can get you offense, dribble, handle the ball, but also play defense? That's exactly what you want for Trey. You want, like, honestly, he would need one of the only few centers, like a big man that can also be offensive too, because he needs defensive help. But like right now, when Capella's out there and Capella can't do anything for you offensively, they're in trouble. Like,
I mean, it would. What would the package be with the Raptors that Bobby pointed out? Like, what would the package be?
Because you're getting rid of Van Vliet.
Like, you'd probably have to send Van Vliet back, but he's not that great at defense.
I like Van Vliet better than Trey Young right now, honestly.
Well, I do too, yeah.
Because he's thicker. We've actually seen him in playoff series not get picked on all throughout a series. And we've seen him hit big and clutch shots. But it is so weird because just 2 years ago, Trey Young was, like you said, they were winning in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, that's how quickly it goes. And he played well during that stretch. I know teams were hurt, but he himself was playing very well. It's one of those things when it was like when he caught everyone off guard almost, right? The first time or the first few times you play someone like that. And then once you're able to have him measured and there's more film and you understand his strengths and his weaknesses a little bit more, he doesn't just have the size to get out of it, right? That's what hurts him.
I'll tell you, my one thing with Trey Young is like some of these players, it's just they are who they are. It's kind of, I'm trying to think of a player that kind of changed like the whole way you perceive them. But when players get this late, like after 25, 26, they are who they are. You know what I mean? They're not really going to make a change.
And because I know he wouldn't do this, and I know, like he's too good for this role, but Trey Young, honestly, would be a fantastic super sub. He would be a fantastic guy to come off the bench, light it up, and then close games when he's playing well. But just having to depend on him against the other team's best guards defensively over and over, that's what hurts you when he's on the court repeatedly. So a lot of fun talking some Trey, talking some Embiid, Clippers.
I got one.
Go ahead.
I got one. One player that I feel dramatically later in his career has gotten insanely better and accept a lesser role. And I'm not being a homer. Bobby Portis.
Absolutely.
Like
Bobby Portis. See the type of guy that you're also talking about is a player right now who is doing very well for the Lakers. That's Rui Hachimura.
Yeah.
Because Rui
he's
came out
only 24. He still got some
and
time.
that's the thing, right? But he came out as a lottery pick, someone that the Wizards thought was going to be like a franchise savior type guy, right? Like a real key.
He was getting compared to being the next Giannis.
Right? That's what people were saying. And it's disappointing that he's not, but you watch him and all of a sudden you put him on the court where he's like the third or the fourth option. And now all of a sudden he's really tough to guard. And he's not going to keep making threes like this. But what's nice about Rui, one thing, I believe he was the second best mid-range shooter in the entire NBA this year behind Durant. He is fantastic mid-range because he's got size on you. He's like 6'9". He gets to his little spot and he does a little turnaround and it's almost like automatic. And it's nice that he's like finding a role. That's what's great. I was going to ask you about Portis too, because it was funny. Bobby Portis gets the type of love that we are going to see tomorrow when Austin Reeves goes to the free throw line. They chant MVP for him at the Laker games. And it reminds me of Portis because, yeah, the Lakers fans, they love LeBron. They love Anthony Davis. They get excited when those guys have good games. But I swear, your Bucks fans, if Bobby Portis hit a game-winning shot, they would go louder and crazier than if it was Giannis or Middleton or Drew or any of those other guys. They want them some Bobby Portis more than anybody else.
Oh my God. Like he's an absolute savior. The town loves him. And one more thing, I know Brogdon won 6-man. Portis got absolutely hosed in that category. Okay. How many double-doubles did Joel Embiid have? He's the MVP, right?
Yep.
How many double-doubles did Embiid have? He had 39. How many did Portis have? 38. Averaging 14 points a game, shot over 50% from the field on the team with the best record. And you don't win 6-man of the year? I mean, dude, that was a little BS in my eyes, but that's for another thing.
So let's see, where are we now on our comments? So that lineup, I want a Zubac, Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi, Trey lineup. Okay, well, and the thing about the Clippers too, they've got a lot of money, of guys that are just sort of sitting that don't play a whole lot. They have a lot of pieces to move. The concern with them, like it's always been, you and I recorded a show yesterday and had no idea Kawhi was going to be missing. And in the 2 hours between when we recorded and when we set the stream, Kawhi was hurt. And that's just one of those things where it's so hard to trust. It's so hard to trust. We called this too. It was really smart to not play Ja win or lose the other night because the way that the series was scheduled for the Lakers Grizz in the first round, like Ja played Sunday and then didn't have to play all the way till Saturday night. He's got a full week. They play Saturday night, 7:30 local time. That's a full week for him, which was great. So, I imagine like Ja's going to be fine. Maybe that handle hurt and maybe he can't shoot as well, but Ja's not someone who's going to be a sniper from way downtown anyways, right? He's got the floater game and he's going to be driving a little bit more. We'll see early if he's able to make passes. Erik, let's shift to our second game of today's 3-game slate. Let's go to Cleveland and the Knicks. So we've got the Knicks heading home, tied 1-1 in this series. Knicks are a 1.5-point favorite. Over under in this game, 211.5. Talk to us about how you're seeing this game play out. I can see that you're going to roll with the Knicks early on.
I like the Knicks first quarter. Again, like we saw it in game 1. Garland, Mobley, kind of deer in headlights, a little bit tentative. This is their first playoff game on the road. Cavs only 46% against the number in the first quarter. I think the electricity in the Garden is just going to be humming. And like I mean, I hit the Bucks. You know, I seem to be seeing this pretty good right now. These first quarter bets I started to do. We're gonna try to ride the train here. I think the Knicks are gonna come out with a real concentrated effort. Electricity in the Garden is gonna be high, and I think it's gonna be a little too big for these Cavs players. Bickerstaff started being a little bit more physical. He started blitzing Young a little bit more. I think Thibodeau is going to have a counter to that in what he does. Thibodeau, I think, is a way better coach. The fact that for whatever reason, Bickerstaff can sit there straight-faced and say, you know what? Instead of Okowo, give me old man Danny Green coming off a torn ACL, Usman and LeVert that can't play defense. That's who I want out there. Completely blows my mind that we've just seen Okawo just completely out of the lineup, which doesn't make sense. I think Tibbs is going to have something cooking. I think the Knicks are going to come out really electric. I'll take them for the first quarter, and then I'm also going to take them on the money line too. Like I said, I think there's going to be a big advantage, coaching advantage here. I think they're going to do a little bit more with Brunson. Hart's ankle is better. I think we're going to see less Mitchell Robinson minutes, them go a little bit smaller just because he really struggles athletically keeping up. Cavs are 3-13 straight up as road dogs on the road. You know, they're getting 1 to 2 points here looking at the book. Plus, I'm looking at Twitter like right now as I speak. It seems like everyone and their aunt is betting the Cavs. So I'm going to do a little bit of a fade of the public right now.
Yeah, I was impressed with the game plan of getting the ball obviously in Garland's hand, trying to get Mobley more into it. Those were things that you and I were hoping they did. Those were our plays in that game. And I liked how Donovan Mitchell was fine off the ball, right? He didn't look like he was bothered. He wasn't like showing any bad body language, talking crap. Like he was good off the ball, and their team was so much better when the ball moved around and it wasn't all just Mitchell, everybody sitting and watching. And I very much agree with you. I think the move that he made with Danny Green, like that's one of those moves that's sort of like a game 6 or game 7 in the series move at the very end, because that's one of those things that might be able to help you out for a game or two. I think if you're going to try to win this series and then another series or two, you're going to need Okoro, right? Yeah. Like you're going to need him to have some type of a role. That's my only concern.
4% from 3 after the All-Star break. I mean, I'll pull it up right now.
So that's my concern, is that you can't immediately eliminate him and then hope to go back to him like this on the road. I was not necessarily impressed, but just that's what they needed to do. Bickerstaff showed he can do that. Now comes the counterpunch back by Tibbs, and will he be able to counter that counter from Tibbs? Erik,
I'm looking at it right now. 43% from 3, 51% from the floor for Okoro after the All-Star game. It just, I don't know. I don't know why he's insisting on playing these less than athletic guys. I think it's going to bite him real quick.
Grimes over 1.5 threes, -125. Best bet today. Another instance where Grimes and a lot of the role players, the strong role players for the Knicks, expect better efforts from them as they head home. This was the one game in this number, and I can't really get a feel for it. You talked about Mitchell Robinson maybe playing less. I was looking to play possibly some of his props. They're not up there at all. You can't even find any like rebound props. I thought maybe he'd be able to get a few more at home, get a little bit of a boost here, but they're not even out there. So no plays for me in this game, but I will have a couple in our next game. You want to mention anything else here, Erik, in game 2?
No, I mean, the Garden's going to be rocking. I've been to one playoff game in the Garden, one of the best experiences of my life.
Game 3 of our 3-game slate today. We've got the Wolves and we've got Denver. So Minnesota's heading home for the first time in this series. This is game 3. They are a 2-point underdog at home. Over under in this game, 222 or so. So Erik, I'm going to go on the money line with the Wolves. Heading home, first half. So first half money line, -110. I want the Wolves to be up at halftime here. Just like we've been saying, you're home. This is your big punch. You have to give every bit of energy, every ounce of everything. And at least we got a better game from Edwards last time, right? I don't know if he's going to be able to put that back, but at least we saw that he's not hurt where he can do that if he needs to. And now he heads home. So I feel a little bit better about them at least being competitive and being able to steal a game in this series than I did, because I wasn't sure how healthy Edwards was before that last game. He had put a couple back-to-back games where he didn't play that well. He wasn't shooting well. He looked a little tentative. That made me feel better about their chances in this game, just seeing that he had a little bit more oomph, right?
Yeah, he looked a lot better, especially in that third quarter. They made a run in the third quarter. The thing that the Wolves started to do, instead of running their pick and roll right on the top, they started running it a little bit adjacent on the wing. So that way everything was on one floor, on one side of the floor. They just couldn't hit a shot to save them life. Both, they're due for some really good positive shot regression. I thought this was always going 5. I thought I had this circled as the game that the Wolves are going to win. And if you're the Wolves, you can kind of sit back and you can be like, you know what? Even though we lost both games by double digits, we still had a chance in both games. We still played good third quarters. We just shot and they were getting open, and Murray's going off.
He had 40 points, 6 of 10 for 3. He was 8 of 9 from the free throw line. And Bobby Thomas, you and me are on the same page, my friend. I'm going under the 23.5 for Jamal Murray. I just have to. Like, out of principle, when you make 6 threes like that, in his 2 games, he shot 6 of 10 from 3 and 4 of 10 from 3. So if he just has a slightly off 3-point game, I think he's going to go under this number. That is a little bit higher now because of that big game that he had. I am Jamal Murray under 23.5 points. And I know our buddy Bobby Thomas was also on that same number.
He's definitely due for some regression. It's going to be interesting to see what are the adjustments make. I mean, here's another thing. Like, why don't you put Towns more at center, have Gobert run more with the 2s? That way you focus Joker to play, you know what I mean? To play more on the perimeter. Shot quality, my last bet in the slate, Towns over 20.5. Shot quality is Towns due for some shot regression. He's 8 for 28 to start the series. I think they're going to look to get him going and get him going often. We saw this in the game. I forgot, I'm spacing on what game it was. I think it was game 2 against the Grizzlies, or maybe it was game 3.
Last year,
he really struggled. And right off the bat, it was just all Towns. Just Towns. They really tried to get him going. I think they need to. I mean, you should bench Gobert and you should have Towns play the center and force Joker to play him, get him in some pick and roll, get him out on the perimeter. That would be their best chance. Because I'll be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if Gobert isn't in Minnesota next year. I think he's gone. But again, that's another Dallas maybe. Like, who would trade for him? I don't know.
Yeah, and whoever trades for him is definitely not going to give what Minnesota gave. So they're going to feel like they got fleeced because they gave up a lot for Rudy Gobert. So
and
Erik,
the funny thing is that big man, oh my God, what's his name? The
Kessler.
Big man for Utah. Yeah.
He's
Kessler just on the team
I know.
would actually be a better thing.
Fit right now.
Yeah, better fit.
Erik on the Wolves +2.5. I'm on the Wolves first half. And also, I hate the Lakers on the Wolves plus the 120. So we think it's the night for the Wolves to bounce back. Erik, let's bounce on over and talk a little bit about Thrive Fantasy. Any of you who are watching who want to get a little action tonight, this is right up your alley. This is exactly what you're looking for. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy site. And what's nice is the games are super affordable. It's very easy to navigate. It's very easy to play. Website, thrivefantasy.com. And when you deposit, use your promo code GINO. That'll get you a match deposit bonus from 25 all the way up to 250. So, Erik, on Thrive Fantasy, the major contests are usually these $20 featured games that we've been seeing over the last week or so. These games are really fun, and they're the type of games that I think a lot of people watching this show would be interested in, right? You have a $20 game. You have what, $2,000 in prizes, and you're only playing against like 100 other people or so. So not a bunch of bots, not thousands and thousands of generated programs. Winner gets 400. They pay out to the top 25, 26. So even if you're not the winner, you still can get some money back in and have another entry to play in for tomorrow. This is the type of games that I like to play. I'm usually playing in DraftKings, $20 games to come fantasy Sundays, right? Like this is that same style you're looking for, but it's just smaller contest format, which I enjoy. Like you feel like you have a chance to win.
Yeah, you feel like you have a chance to win. Also, a neat little feature they have is the parlay?
The prop. Yep. The prop lobby.
So to think of it like this, the normal parlay plays 2.6 to 1.
Yep.
In the prop lobby, if you put two bets to do, I believe it's
3.2.
3.2. So you get a little bit more juice. So this is a little bit more
value
for the player. You get a little bit better value. It's definitely something, I'm starting to do a little bit more and more. And I'm glad you kind of brought it to my attention.
So contest, you can play, and when you play the props, it's kind of simple. All you have to do is just click and connect the two of them. So for me, one of the props that I had mentioned, Erik, was the Bogdanovich, 15.5 points and assists. I know that was on here somewhere, so I'll find it. But Bogdanovich was the play for me, or I can go, wherever Boggy was. Or he's got 18.5 points, rebounds, assists. I think his other prop was in there. So Bog is one that I'm targeting for sure. The other one that I would be targeting is our guy Sadiq Bey. This prop wasn't even up when you're looking. He almost got played off the court. He was only played like 16 minutes. They need a bigger game from him. I would target Bogdanovich. I would target Sadiq Bey. And then the other one was Jamal Murray that we just mentioned for me and Smooth Bobby Thomas. So Jamal Murray, I believe we just can get the Jamal Murray point prop, which was 23.5. Let's just confirm on that one. Yeah, it was on here somewhere. Jamal Murray's point total. He's 6.5 assists, 10.5 rebounds and assists, points and assists. Because some of them that are there it is, 20 points and rebounds. Some of them are different from the prop lobby, obviously, than if they're in the contest. So, like, if you go back to the contest and you go in, you can find the couple that I was mentioning. So you've got the.
For me, it's just
Murray 20. Murray's actually 24.5 points, so that's even better because we can get less there. Erik, who are you looking at for some of your props to play?
My prop thing that I'm doing in the prop shop. I'm
lobby.
Going back to the wall. Yeah, Capella under the 20.5 points, rebounds, assists. Makes it pretty obvious. My case for that. That I won't repeat. And then I'm gonna go John Collins. Last game with limited Capella minutes, he averaged 15 rebound chances per game. Second in the team in the playoffs with 11.5 rebound chances per game. And, he's due for some positive shot regression. So if he's going to get 7 rebounds and to get 15 points, John Collins is going to be going well over this total. Those two together, put $25 on it, come back with 80. You can't complain.
To look at Thrive Fantasy for today, use that promo code GINO for the match deposit bonus. Same game parlay. Towns over 30, Wolves plus 114. Okay. Sure. That's a nice juicy one. From Let's Make Some Money. Bobby Thomas, I hate the Lakers. Thanks so much to everyone for checking in with us today. Remember, tomorrow we will be back noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And tomorrow we have a full slate, 4 Saturday NBA games coming up tomorrow. So we'll start early and we'll go all throughout the day. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here, buddy?
I'm looking forward not to betting the Brooklyn Nets ever again. Can their season just be over?
Merciful, hopefully. Hopefully. They've cost us a few times already. We'll be back tomorrow to talk all about the 4 games. Make sure to follow us on social media. Subscribe to Erik's podcast. Check out That's What G Said podcast if you can. If you need to make any wagers, head to DRF Sportsbook or DRF Bets to make those wagers. When you're kicking back, you want a little action on the game, that's when you go to Thrive Fantasy. You can play some of these parlays that we were talking about for $1. If you have a few dollars left on your account, you want some action, you can play $1 parlay all the way up to 1,000, combining some of the props together. Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow, Saturday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time.